What's up, guys? Welcome to another NBA Rundown, courtesy of Run Pure Sports and Run Pure Bets. Get this out of the way right off the top. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel so we can keep more solid content coming to you. Today, with a great team, I got Travis Mangone and JSU. Travis, how you doing today?
Good. Glad to be here. It's been a good week of DFS, right? Betting too. Like everything's been going well. So excited to be back here and talk some hoops with JSU and get dialed in and give out the winners and talk some betting with you as well and see where it takes us.
Yeah, this lineup did great last Tuesday, so hopefully we can replicate that success. JSU, how you doing today?
Doing good. Just another day of basketball. Hopefully, we can give some winners on the show and run pure.
Yeah, I'm loving it. It's a pretty heavy card. Sometimes on these Tuesdays they can be light, but they gave us plenty of games to talk about. So let's dive right in. The first game we have is the Atlanta Hawks playing the Cleveland Cavaliers. Atlanta laying 7.5 on the road. The Cavaliers have just been a disaster. Just looking at their game logs, I mean they've lost by 16, 17, 31, 17, 19, 38. I mean, it's just been absolutely terrible for Cleveland. And it was funny because I know that Drummond got sat down because supposedly he had a bad attitude, but the team has definitely got worse since he hasn't been playing. So I'm seeing a total on this game of, what are we seeing at, 228.5. Travis, what do you think? You gonna take some road chalk today?
Yeah. So you're talking about Cleveland, and man, they have been really brutal. But I don't think Andre Drummond has been the issue. I think it's been no Larry Nance. Larry Nance is
All
like
right.
one of their better players. I think. I think he just helps like defensively. Yeah. People like really don't, not they don't realize, but they don't think about it. Like those like really great defensive players, they leave the easy buckets. And like as someone that can't shoot a basketball, it's nice to get an easy bucket into the hoop. So yeah, the easy buckets are definitely good. Be able to get back in transition on defense, and they are lacking without Larry Nance. So that is something that I'm sure is very, very concerning for this Cavaliers team. And the Atlanta Hawks, I mean, they have been really solid. Overall, they're just a great, not great team, but they're a really good team, right? They're fun to watch with Trae Young. I don't expect Cleveland's guys to, Garland and Sexton to give them too many issues. I think it's a good spot to maybe pay for a guy like a Trae Young if you want to. I don't know if you need to on this slate though. That's going to be the key. Like I get it, he has upside here. It's a pretty big team total of 118 in DFS, but I don't want to bet anything on the Cavs. Like I'm just like I'm totally out on this team. In DFS, some of their prices make sense. Like Jared Allen has been absolutely crushing it. The problem is he's going up against Clint Capella. Do I want to pay that price of 7.5K now? Probably not. Those guards, they've been a little bit of better price tags, mainly Garland. It's gone up a little bit. I think he's in play because I'm not scared of Trae Young defense. So he's someone that I will consider, but I'm not going to bet on the Cavs, right? Once Larry Nance went out, I was like, listen, I know the Cavs have been good to start out the season. They kind of came in hot. I am buying low on them, and I'm going to continue to buy low on them. If I took anyone, I would take the Hawks side. If I had to pick, that would be my lead.
What do you think, JSU? Are you going to continue to fade this struggling Cavs team?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I've been the one least impressed with the Hawks. I've been kind of not as high without DeAndre Hunter. Travis talks about Larry Nance on the Cavs side. I think DeAndre Hunter is just a huge loss for the Hawks, and it makes me not like their team as much when you don't have that lockdown defender who's been really good shooting from the outside. My issue,
Jason, it's not just that. He was their secondary ball handler. You're bringing up a great point. Like he was that
yeah,
second team point guard. So you are right about that.
yeah, and it's just such a loss when you lose a guy like that. Just a 3-and-D guy, just can do really everything you need, and he's just gotten so much better. But my issue is the Cavs here. I don't love the 7.5, but I don't love the Cavs team overall without all those guys. Drummond's gone right now. Larry Nance. They're starting Isaac Okoro and C.D. Osman, and it's just not a good team all around. Jared Allen's going to have a tough time with Clint Capella, who's a really good defender. I just don't love the spot for the Cavs, but I don't want to bet Atlanta. So with the 7.5. So I think this game is just a complete stay away for me.
All right, yeah, and there's no shame in that, especially when you have a heavy card like we do tonight. So the next one is it's a replay from, gosh, what was that? Is that Friday night that they most recently played? Anyways, Orlando won 105-96 over the Pistons. Now they run it back in the same arena. And if you watch the game, and I had eyes on it because it was one of my official plays, it was a fairly easy win. At no point did I really feel like Detroit had a chance to win. Dennis Smith Jr. Should be starting again, and I just don't believe in him as a point guard. And I think it's really tough for this Detroit team all around right now. So I'm liking Orlando here. JSU, what do you think? Do you think Orlando gets this little mini sweep?
Yeah, so that game was on Sunday. I remember I watched the entire game too. I'm pretty sure, anyways, it was on Sunday. Definitely over the weekend. And one thing that was noticeable was, one, Dennis Smith Jr. is just not a good basketball player overall. He's not good at all. Saben Lee outplayed him like 10 times. Like, he was so much better than Dennis Smith Jr. On the court, and they actually played a lot better with him on the floor. And when they made their run, it was with Saben Lee in that second unit a lot. It wasn't with Dennis Smith Jr. and a lot of those first unit guys, which was really interesting. The problem with Detroit is they just had no answer for guys like Nikola Vucevic and Evan Fournier. Evan Fournier was on fire, making all these different banking threes and making all these crazy shots. And Vucevic just unstoppable. Like, they had no answer for Vooch. Vooch went for like 37 real points, something like that. And it just, there was nothing they could do. If you guard Vooch one-on-one, they just have no answer. And if they continue to do that, it's going to be, I don't see how they win here. I kind of like Orlando 3.5 right now. I'm sorry, not Orlando, Detroit. No, what am I saying? Orlando.
You like Orlando?
3.5 is just is just a number that I think is kind of too low, even for an Orlando team that's not very good, but at the same time, they're just much better than Detroit. I guess it says more about how bad Detroit is right now, where Jeremy Grant, if the guy's not making every shot and doing everything on offense, they just don't have an offense.
Yeah, now, Travis, they sat down Blake Griffin for the inevitable buyout because I can't see anybody trading for him. And this Detroit team definitely has problems. The point guard is not looking good. What are you thinking about this game? Are you with us on Orlando, and did you have any looks on the DFS perspective?
Yeah, I definitely like the Orlando side more. I will say, like, so people, like to say, yeah, Orlando's not the greatest team, but like, the one thing you got to give Orlando credit for is they try hard and they try all game, right? Like, they do not let up. They beat up on a bunch of lame teams. Like, this is their like exact territory where they crush. So they get a lame team in Detroit. One of their best players is Mason Plumlee, right? And Vucevic should be able to do decently, I think, against him, even defensively. So I like Vucevic to have just a purely dominant game. Like, I think he absolutely destroys here in this spot. Sign me up for Vooch. I like him in DFS. The price is up, though. That is the one concern. Price is definitely up. Do you want to spend that price tag, or would you rather, spend it on some other stars? But he is going to have a pretty big game, I believe. So I like him a ton. If you look, we have some other guys on the Pistons side. It's like we have to figure out what we're going to do, right? Are we going to play, a Wayne Ellington? Are we going to play Saben Lee? I'm going to let the shoot around and like all like the quotes that come out. Like, one guy, Rod Beard, he's like a great DFS beat writer. He's a beat writer, but he's all about the people. He kind of says, hey, I'm a beat writer and DFS people talk to me, so I'm going to give you DFS type information. So I know that we have him to kind of have us in good hands, and I'll be looking at that. And I think if you're betting props, right, like see if there's any kind of like shift in news that could maybe be a bump for some of these guys, and then take advantage of the overs or take advantage of the unders, right? I agree with JSU. Like, I don't like Dennis Smith Jr. I thought like this is his last chance, right? Like, let me bet on it. Like, I like betting on dudes that are like betting on themselves, right? Like, this is his chance to really prove it. Majority of the time, I think they at least show out that first time. But man, he absolutely done it. I don't see him starting again. The numbers on Saben Lee, I don't have them up, but like there was a lot of like really good like things that I read about him. I can't even remember. It was like his unassisted numbers that basically should have been assists. He had great ball movement. I think they go with Saben Lee more. And you can make the case that, honestly, DSJ is probably better not playing next to Jeremy Grant and Mason Plumlee, right? Play him on that second unit on this team. Let him kind of just chuck up shots where he wants to, even though it's not great against some backups. And that's probably the right role for him right now with this team. So I like Jeremy Grant too. Price has gone up as always. It's like waivers back and forth from 7K to 6K. And it just depends, I think, slate by slate. If you fall in that mid tier and you need him, sure, I don't mind it when it's against a game that's going to be competitive. But it's really looking at Vucevic as probably my favorite option in this game.
Can I just say something too real quick about Saben Lee? Because I watched that entire game, and I want to make it clear. You look at his numbers, you're going to look at his fantasy numbers. You're going to say, oh, he had 30 points, 30 fantasy points. Wow, it's 3.2K. Let me just make something clear. It's not that he is an unbelievable basketball player. It's just that he looked like Dennis Smith Jr. was so bad, he looked incredible compared to him. So, like, I want to make it clear that, yeah, he looked good, but he just looked enhanced because of how bad Smith Jr. looked, honestly. It was just one of those things where you could tell the offense, he was just way more comfortable in the offense. He got everyone into a good set, and he was making plays for others. And even if he didn't get the assists and it was, him setting up, the play, he was still the one getting them in those opportunities. And like I said, when he was in, that's when they were making runs on Orlando, because Orlando had this game from the jump. Like they were in the lead for most of this game. It wasn't like seriously competitive, that close back and forth or anything like that. They kind of had it, and then Saben Lee kind of gave them a little boost to slowly chip back towards the lead. But, in the end, Orlando was just better, and it showed in the end. But I just wanted to say that because, like, Saben Lee, when people look at his numbers, they're going to be like, wow, he's good. He had this many, hockey assists, as Mangone would say, whatever. But it's just he just looked way better because Smith Jr. looked so bad. So if he continues to jump in as the second point guard but play the entire second quarter along with some minutes in the first quarter, yeah, he's going to see 30 minutes and he's going to probably do decent for 3,200. But I just wanted to throw that out there because he played the entire second quarter, came in the first quarter with about 3.5 minutes left and played the entire second quarter, and then pretty much did the same thing in the second half.
Yeah, he's that guy when you go and play at like the local YMCA. He comes into the game, Dennis Smith Jr., and he chucks up all the shots and ruins your team. But then Saben Lee comes in, and you're like, we have a guy that like plays the game the right way. He's not messing up the chemistry. He's passing the ball, making like there's clearly a guy wide open in the corner that should have gotten that pass, and he's making the right plays. So that's what Saben Lee is, I think. That's what Jay.
Yeah, and Joe Conley says if DSJ comes out and plays well, he's not going to get that run. That's probably true, right? If let's say DSJ comes out in this game and plays better than Saben Lee, well, then the minutes could flip and DSJ could see 30 and Saben Lee could see, 18 or whatever it was. So absolutely that could be the case. Again, we don't really know, right? It's kind of like we got to wait until tip off and see how the start goes. But man, if DSJ plays close to what he played to last game, he's not going to see much of the floor. They'll pull him early. Like in the third quarter, they pulled him with like 5 or 5.5 minutes in the third, as opposed to in the first quarter, they pulled him after I think it was around 3 minutes. So there was a big difference. They went right to Saben Lee in the third quarter. And DSJ actually had a decent run where he got a steal, hit 2 threes, all in a span of like a minute. And they still pulled him early for Saben Lee.
Yeah, I think I'd be quite comfortable betting against Dennis Smith Jr. And when I'm looking at, I put the Pistons on my auto fade list right now. They're there with the Cavaliers and the Rockets, where I'm just pretty much going against them until I see something different. And a big reason of that is Dennis Smith Jr. just not being an NBA caliber point guard, and the fact that they're starting him, I think, is just such a disadvantage. And it's really too bad for the rest of the players on the team because I think they have some okay pieces at forward, and when he's in there, they're just not able to get the good looks that they're used to getting. So anything more about this game before we move on?
I mean, I think Vooch is a lock to have like a double-double and have a solid game, but he's the best play by far, I think. The problem is from a DFS side, he's like over 10K.
Yeah, spread. This is probably like the most you'll hear us talk about, like a 209 total. Like we talked a lot about it.
Yeah.
There's better games in the slate, and I guess the reason we kind of talked about it is because hey, like Vooch will dominate because he's good in these totals, and like that whole like DSJ Saban Lee thing was like something from like the other day that mattered, and like it could matter a little today if we need the value. So that's
Mangone, I think Saban Lee's going to be popular. What do you mean?
Well,
You're talking about one of the more popular DFS plays of the slate.
Yeah, I mean, he probably is going to be popular, right? But it's like you typically don't see that in a 209 total. You know what I mean? It's just like we need value. But if we get like, I'll say this: if for some reason we get like I don't know, like a random guy out, I'm trying to think like if like LeBron's not even on this slate, but like if let me pull up the games, like who could be someone that randomly sits, like if Giannis sat, right?
Mangone, if DSJ is out, I'm sorry, if DSJ is like out of the starting lineup. And Saban Lee is in, I mean, he's obviously going to be massive chalk anyways. But if DSJ continues to start, does Saban Lee still stay really chalky if there's no other value news that pops up? Probably, right?
Yeah, I mean, if no value news pops up, yes, that would be the way it would go down. It would just be he would still be chalk, and you just would move on. And it's like you decide you want to pivot off it. Do you want to go higher up to the mid tier?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on. Like Mangone said, let's get to a DFS total that you love. This is going to be what I call the Charles Dickens game of the day. It's the best of times and the worst of time. The Brooklyn Nets coming off a 6-game win streak on the West Coast where they look absolutely fantastic. Beat the Lakers, beat the Clippers, beat the Suns, beat the Kings is nothing, but, beat these high-profile teams without Kevin Durant. Harden looked great. Irving looked great. They're starting to play defense. Sacramento Kings have lost 7 in a row. They look absolutely terrible. They were 12-11 a little while ago. Now they're 12-18, and everything seems to be falling apart for this team. And talk about totals that you want to stack in DFS. 242 here. Looks like Brooklyn is laying 6.5. Let's start with you, JSU. What do you think about this game?
Yeah. So these teams played. I want to say like a week ago or something like that. It was a really solid game until the third quarter where Brooklyn, I'm pretty sure, kind of spaced out their lead and ended up winning handily. They also broke a team record, I'm pretty sure, for 3-point makes.
Yeah, 27.
We're close to the NBA record, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. I remember watching it. But they broke their team record, Nets franchise record for made threes. What'd you say, 27 spread? What's the number?
27 threes against the
they were incredible shooting. That was a game where I remember I loved Kyrie Irving. I loved Harden. I said in the Up to Lock show that we have over at Run Pure Sports, I said Harden's going to have a triple-double. Kyrie's going to go for 40. That's exactly what happened. Just because Sacramento can't handle guards. They can't guard guards. This is a tough matchup for them where they have 2 of the best guards offensively in the entire league scoring. But Rashaan Holmes is back. Harrison Barnes is a really solid piece that's questionable for Sacramento. You talked about they've been kind of in a rut here. He's been out for a few games. Mm-hmm. Rashaan Holmes is another guy who was out for a few games. He just came back last game. If Harrison Barnes were to be back, I would say I think I would kind of lean the Kings here. Still kind of want to take the Kings plus the points if I'm betting this game, honestly, because I do think if you watch that game, if the Nets, even the bench guys were hitting, like everyone was hitting threes, like it was insane. Like they were shooting unbelievable. I mean, like the Nets and the Kings game, that could have stayed close. So to me, I honestly lean the points with the Kings right now, but I would really like it more if Barnes was back because Barnes can play the 3, the 4. He can hit that corner 3. He can defend multiple positions. What Brooklyn wants to do is they kind of want to get mismatches in the pick and roll, get guys to switch on Harden and Kyrie, and then let them go to work. Whereas when Barnes is in and they can play like that smaller lineup, I think that helps them a lot more. And obviously for what Brooklyn wants to do, it would, give the Kings a little bit of a better edge defensively to try and stop these guards. Because if you get like Whiteside slow feet on Harden switched on him, like he's done. Kyrie, Same thing. Like even Rashaan Holmes, like he's a big guy, but he's a little more mobile than Whiteside, but still like can't defend those guys, but they're just going to go right by him or they're just going to step back and shoot threes. So It's an interesting game. I really like it for DFS, but from a betting side, I honestly think I'll take the points with the Kings here.
Yeah, Kings were criticized when they gave Harrison Barnes that big contract, but it's looking like a value contract now. And as the Kings start to sell, I think there's a lot of teams, including Travis's Celtics, that should be interested in trying to grab Harrison Barnes to go ahead and make that playoff run. That being said, he's still on the Kings tonight. Not sure if he's going to play, but what do you think about this game, Travis? Are you going to stack it up with that total of 242?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds crazy, but Harrison Barnes does matter. And like as Luke Walton has once said, he's the heart and soul of our team, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But at the same time, it's just kind of true because like without Harrison Barnes, that team really does suck. So I don't want to bet it until I have the Harrison Barnes news, I think.
Right.
And I think another good way to maybe play this slate, I don't know what they're going to do with Hassan Whiteside, right? Because Whiteside, if you look at the numbers, he had an absolute monster game the last time he played the Nets, and these guys are getting a little healthier. I think if I bet on the Kings, I think I would bet them first quarter. And the reason why is I know I'm not getting a lot of Hassan Whiteside minutes that I have to deal with because I don't believe in him being like he does not help you win basketball games. Is he fun for the stat sheet? Is he fun to watch? Kind of like Andre Drummond? Sure, right? Like, I don't mind whenever I can play Andre Drummond in DFS and he's playing 40 minutes and he puts up like 1 billion fantasy points. That's fun, but he's not someone I would want on my team. That's how I feel about Whiteside. So I think I would bet the Kings, whatever they're getting in the first quarter. I might even like money line them. But if I played this game, that's the angle I would take. I certainly wouldn't take betting an under in a Nets game. That's something we don't do in 2021. So I'm not touching that total. And I think this is a fun game for DFS. I think it's one that what you're going to see happen on this DFS slate is you're going to see De'Aaron Fox maybe get some more ownership at that price tag. I think you'll see a lot of people gravitate towards Giannis as their stud, right? Like you won't see people say, let me go Fox, let me go Kyrie, and let me go Harden, right? Like jamming in all three and then going with a lot of like cheap guys. Now it's not easy to do, but it's definitely a more unique route. And I think like a combination even of like a Fox with a Kyrie, I don't think you'll see that as much as you would think. Because I just think everyone's going to plug in Giannis. They're going to look at those centers on this slate and be like, I want to get one of those centers. They're in such good spots. So that's a way I think in tournaments you can get simply pretty unique with having a nice little game stack where if it's a back and forth kind of game, it could be interesting. And a lot of the other stuff hinges on the Kings news, like Whiteside. JSU, you're going to probably play Whiteside if for some reason, like could a Holmes or Bagley be randomly out here in this spot, JSU?
I mean, I haven't seen anything pop up about them being like questionable or anything like that. I'm assuming that Holmes is going to play. What he gets for minutes, though, I don't know. I think he played like 21 last game. I would assume he gets a little more if he's in. So I don't think so, but I haven't seen the news. Either way, the only guy right now that I think is questionable is that really matters anyways is Harrison Barnes.
Yeah, I know Glenn Robinson's questionable, so that could help Jeffries maybe, but I think it'll be too good of a slate to go to Daquan Jeffries.
Yeah, and don't forget, too, this was the matchup where Corey Joseph started against Brooklyn because Brooklyn likes to play small. So I wouldn't be shocked if more of the guards get a little more run here. Halliburton's already getting a bunch of minutes, but Brooklyn plays small a lot. So I wouldn't be shocked if they went small for a lot of this game. And that's why I think Harrison Barnes is such a big deal. It's not that I think Harrison Barnes is like an amazing player. He just fits to what you need, like to kind of match what Brooklyn is going to do. You know what I mean? Brooklyn plays Jeff Green at the 5 for a good amount of some of these games. Like if that happens, that's a mismatch offensively all game. You know what I mean? And they go 5 wide and they, kind of like open that paint up for, Harden and Kyrie to get into the lane and to kick or to score. So it's tough to stop if you don't have guys who can switch and guard multiple positions.
All right. This next game I want to talk about, I can't wait to hear Travis's thoughts about it because I'll tell you what, I go over all the games and I usually come, run my numbers, come to my leans pretty easily. This one, I could not do it because I do not trust my numbers at all. Boston Celtics heading to Dallas to take on the Mavericks. The last time we saw Boston, they were blowing a Sunday afternoon lead. It was, boy, it must have been hurt. I know that you don't get too wound up over February games, but that was not a good performance, Travis. Now they head to a Dallas team that, hey, not necessarily playing their best basketball as well. Rumors that Porzingis is on the trade market. Don't know if I believe that. Cuban tried to deny it today, but I think that they might be well served to get rid of him. That hasn't been the best trade so far. Dallas obviously coming off that 10-point win over Memphis. That was yesterday. And then, of course, we talked about Boston having that tough game against New Orleans. So I don't know. What do you think? Is this a bounce back spot for your Boston Celtics, Travis?
Oh man, so it's so funny you say that because like I thought the Celtics won on Sunday, and a day later I found out they lost and I like didn't realize. I was like, oh, because it was like that 3:45 game, right? Like I'm looking at the DFS slate. I kind of wrote off that game like happened. I was like, oh, they won the game, nice. I saw they were up a ton and moved on to working on DFS stuff and just didn't even look back. But tough loss for the Celtics. The one guy that they will be missing in this game, I believe Porzingis plays. The reason I think Porzingis sat yesterday is because this is a national TV game, right? You can't sit your stars on those national TV games. They get all upset about that. It's like, and it's kind of been a clear pattern. Like, sure, Porzingis has played on some back-to-backs, but there is a chance sometimes that Porzingis does not play on the second night of a back-to-back. If that knee flares up or if he's like, sore at all, they just sit him, right? So they probably, not talk to the league, but they said, listen, the smart idea here is to sit him in this game and then we play him against the Celtics so we don't get in trouble or fined for anything. I think that's what's going to happen. So that's kind of good news for Porzingis because this is a game where I think he can do well. He's typically has had some struggles against the Celtics because Marcus Smart is a small guy, but I don't know why Porzingis cannot shoot over the chair of Marcus Smart. He has that problem. Big T can shoot over the chair at JSU, but Porzingis cannot shoot over.
We don't know how well, but we know it's happened, but we don't know how well.
Yes, it's true. Oh man, I can't wait for the first Run Pure party where we get to watch everyone just go at it on the basketball court. That the JSU and Big T, the title town and Big T.
All I remember is shooting over everyone to win that game. That's all I remember, Mangone. You and Tony and Tuttle and everyone else that was just looking at me as I raised up for three and finished you off and sent you packing. Just said, "Get off my court." That's all I remember.
I do remember that. It was fun, and I have the clip. So if Big T, if he ever needs like a reality check, I have that in the pocket to just throw on Twitter.com. So, back to Porzingis. I think this is a game where he could thrive a bit, right? Like I'm not scared of these like centers on the Celtics, right? Maybe he does see a little bit of Robert Williams, but Robert Williams gets in foul trouble, right? And Porzingis, he can easily get to the free throw line on him and do some creative stuff. So I think it's an interesting spot where Porzingis could get a bit overlooked. So I don't hate him today in DFS. Luka he has been a real annoyance this year. Like you keep looking at Luka and you think without Porzingis, like he should be absolutely dominating. And he has not been as dominant. And I don't know why. I do think that with Porzingis, like it's not a guy that I'm like, okay, Porzingis is like, typically when you have like Harden and Kyrie, you take Kyrie off the court, Harden infinitely just gets so much more usage. Now, I never feel like that when it comes to a guy like Porzingis. I feel like it also helps Luka, but I feel like he should just have so much funnel to him that he should still do well. Porzingis being there does not scare me. If you want to pay the price tag on a guy like Luka, you can. I just don't know if it's going to be the right slate to do that. They also are getting a bit healthier, right? They have Josh Richardson, Dorian Finney-Smith. They have a bunch of their guys there. So I'm not as concerned with paying up for Luka today at the moment. I don't think it's a need. I think I'd rather go to Giannis or some other players as my spend-up options. Maybe JSU has a different take in tournaments because I'm guessing he goes under-owned because he played badly last night and no one wants to play him, right? It's just we have recency bias.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things, right? So he played bad last night. Also, too, people have this thing in their head where when Porzingis plays, his upside takes a monster hit, which I don't think is the case. I personally don't think that's true. I've seen them both have monster games together on the court together because they're really the whole offense. Let's just be honest about it. What happened last night was I talked a Memphis team that has been awful. And I said it like, this team struggles to score. And Dallas came in and put it to them. Guys like Josh Richardson, Tim Hardaway Jr., they were just on fire. And like they were up for most of this game. Luka didn't really need to do much anyways. Like it wasn't a spot where Luka's one of those guys where, in my opinion anyways, when I watch him, like when the pressure's on, he is really good. The back and forth games when they're down and they need to get back into it, that's where he thrives and gets those like ceiling performances, in my opinion, anyways. But it's going to bring lower ownership. So for DFS, I think he's a phenomenal tournament play. Even though I do think Brad Stevens is going to try and key on him, try and force the ball out of his hands at times because he doesn't have a guy like Marcus Smart who can lock up a Luka or a Porzingis. The thing with Porzingis is he doesn't like physicality. He doesn't like when people get into him, and that's what Marcus Smart does. Like Marcus Smart literally will get right in his face. I mean, maybe he's not in his face because obviously there's a huge height difference, but he will get right up in him and he will just make it irritating. And that's what he does. That's how he plays defense. That's why he's so good at he's just an annoyance all the time. He's always there and he's so good at it. He moves his feet really well. He's got a solid big frame for a guy who's, a little shorter. He's like 6'3", 6'4". So like, but he's strong. So that's the problem. Like Luka doesn't like that. Porzingis doesn't like that. He doesn't want you to be up in him and hitting him, pushing him around. Like, that's definitely something that he needs to get better at too. He needs to be more physical. He needs to get down low and get on the block a little bit more too. He hangs out too much in that 3-point line. I know it's
real quick. We just got news. Porzingis is actually out, which I'm surprised about, and so is Maxi Kleber.
Wow.
So
we just spent 10 minutes breaking.
This game does change a bit, right? I didn't want to.
Okay.
All right. Let's rewind.
So Mangone, I need Mangone's help though here, because what does this do for Luka? Because I'm so off the radar right now because I felt like Luka to me is a good spend up either way. Does this just make him like an amazing spend up now, or do you still put other studs ahead of him?
So my problem is we have Giannis, right? So I don't think people talk about this enough with their studs, right? Typically when someone like gets like a bunch of usage funneled towards them, like their price just gets jacked up. Giannis's price is like always 11K. Like it doesn't change, right? Like you never get Giannis for like 10-2. So it's like I'm getting Giannis in such an amazing spot. He gets the Timberwolves, which you can destroy inside. Like I still think Giannis is my priority over Luka. The question is, am I going both, right? I don't know yet. I guess that's going to matter. You also are going to have more value where you are able to go both, right? Like Dwight Powell, Willie Cauley-Stein. Like there's no Maxi Kleber, right? We have Tim Hardaway Jr. who's cheap. Like, and by the way, if you're like watching now, like I just logged on my phone. I'm hoping I can maybe get some in. Like bet your props right now. If your book is not taking it down, go and find a prop and bet on like some of these overs, right? Like I don't know if they're up. They're not up on FanDuel, and I don't think they were up because of the Porzingis news. But when you see that, that's something I do in betting all the time. When I see a surprise news, like around 5:30 when the injury report comes out, I have my books. I am logged in, ready to go to beat the books and get in some free money. So that's something I would mention. But I think you can make both of those work because you have all this value, right? Like these Mavericks are not priced properly yet, right? JSU, like we have Tim Hardaway Jr. is 4.5K. That is too cheap. Josh Richardson is 4.7K. That is too cheap. And it's just naturally now turned into a stars and scrub slate where I think the plan for me would be to build in Luka, and I think I want to build in Giannis and then see what I can do with the value. Now, if I have to get rid of one, I think I would get rid of Luka first and I would keep Giannis. And then in tournaments, and you're the tournament guy, so you can tell me if I'm wrong. Let's say I built, and you're not a 150 lineup guy, but I built 150 lineups. My idea the other day was like if I played 150, I would have taken DJ Augustine and Dennis Smith Jr., and I would have made sure they were on separate teams. I would not want them on the same team because I felt like that was a construction that many people were going. So I'd rather have those two just completely away from each other, and I can be overweight on both and still be unique with my construction. So my thought process now is if I play Luka and Giannis in like a large field tournament where like it's 100K to first, I think I want to keep both those guys away from each other. I don't think I want to build a team with both of those guys because I don't love that team ceiling, and I think it's going to be a path that a lot of the cash game players are going to be going. I don't know if you agree or disagree, JSU.
Well, unless you do what we talked about yesterday, which on FanDuel, where you spend down at center and you find a cheap center, because no one likes spending down at center. So positionally, you got to find ways to be unique. But I do agree with you that a lot of people will try and jam two studs in. Now, who those studs are, you think it might be Luka and Giannis, But, I mean, we've got a bunch of good – I mean, James Harden's on this slate against Sacramento. We talked about him. They don't handle guards well. Jokic, we haven't even gotten to Jokic yet, coming off of a not-so-great game. But he gets Portland and his Canard defense. So, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of good studs. But I do agree with you. Pairing two is going to be very popular.
All right,
Yep,
well,
I agree.
I got a bunch of good DFS strategy there. It's going to help me when I'm building my lineup. But you guys are on the fence with me. I still need to lean. Which side are you going to go, Travis? Which side are you going to go? Are you taking the Celtics, or are you going to jump in with the Mavericks here?
No, you're right. And, of course, I'm dodging it a little bit, right? Because I'm
dodging it, too. I think it's the toughest game to call on the slate. You know, it's almost like if you let me throw one game out and I had to bet everyone else, I would throw this game out.
Yeah, I mean, why can't we do that, right? Like we've talked about other ones that we like. Like you don't have to bet everyone on the card. I can't put my finger on this Celtics team. I don't think this is like the team of the future. Like I think it's like we need to get rid of some guys, and I can do a whole podcast on how NBA teams need to sometimes like just you need to quit while you can, right? Like the Cardinals in football were a great example. Josh Rosen didn't work. They moved on, and look at what they got now. I'm not saying that it's going to happen right away, but when you move on quicker, there's a lot of value to that where you can try and find a new answer because what this is not it.
All right, JSU, me and Travis are providing terrible content here. Are you going to help us out and actually take a side here? Well,
listen, last time we did this spread, he gave us a winner. He gave us the Raptors, right? So maybe he got
the people need a winner here. I mean, what if the people want to bet this game? Come on, guys.
It is a TNT game.
It's a national TV game. Yeah,
you can't not give a winner because you're comfortable with it. I mean, chat, come on, start killing these guys for this. I'm going to start it off, and then they'll finish it off. But give me Dallas.
All right.
Even though off the back-to-back, I'll take Dallas here. Boston has not looked right. I know they're without Porzingis. I get everything. But give me Luka, nationally televised game. He's going to get up for it. I like Dallas here.
I'm gonna go with the Celtics. I'm gonna go with the simple because I gotta give a take. It's the national TV game. I will admit you gotta at least give it for the people for that if they're watching it. And I think the reason I'm gonna go for it is back-to-back, obviously, for Dallas. That's something that can be a little concerning. They have a lot of jump shooters. I definitely like to fade the jump shooters on the back-to-backs. Not completely, right? But I like to look at that. I think it's something that matters a little. And when you kind of lose like that the way Boston did, you kind of expect them to kind of make sure to close this next deal, right? Like if the spread is -2, but like I think personally, if you look at this Celtics team, they are going to make sure they're going to get every ounce of minutes to try and win this game. When you lose a game like that, the next one, you kind of dial in a little bit more, right? Preparation the next couple of days is a little different. I'm not someone to say they're going to try harder, but I do think when like you get a really bad loss like that, the next day you get up and go to work, you kind of make sure not to mess around too much. At shoot around, you're not sitting there blasting music and doing stupid stuff. Like you're a little more dialed in practice. So that'll be my take on it. Let's go Celtics.
Yeah, that's a great thing. One thing I'd like to warn everyone about, though, this has been a crazy year, and one thing is fading the back-to-backs has not been profitable. NBA teams on a back-to-back this season are actually 86 and 73 against the spread. That's hitting at 54%. So just another way that capping the NBA has just been so tough this year. But we're finally over at Rump here. We're finally on the right path. We're having a great February, and we're looking to keep it rolling, and we'll keep it rolling with this next game. And I hope Joey Work's still in the chat because I'm sure this is the one that he wants to hear about. The Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry are going to head to New York. First game with fans all season. I think it's going to be like 300. I don't know how much that really matters. Total of 220. The Knicks, started off great, had a little bit of a lull, but now they are getting back on track, winning 4 of their last 5. Most recently, a 4-point win over Minnesota. The Warriors coming off 2 straight losses in Orlando and in Charlotte. In Charlotte, saw the Draymond Green breakdown where he pretty much handed them the game. Credit to Terry Rozier for taking the handoff, though, and making a great shot to seal it. But you talked about teams that should be focused in the Boston perspective. Feeling that way about Golden State here, coming off that really emotional loss against Charlotte?
Yeah, I kind of do. So it's so funny. I actually talked about this with someone, and like, my buddy was like, "Yeah, I want to bet Golden State," and I was like, "Well, is Curry in, right?" And he is in, so that's good, right? It seemed like it was some weird illness or something. Like he probably warmed up and then realized he wasn't good enough to go. A lot of people were speculating what it actually was. I think he's perfectly fine, and I think that he'll be dialed in and do great. I will say the fans thing, it's probably not like a good thing, because I know the Knicks in general, they've talked about, they've been like, hey, like fans in the crowd is not good, because like whenever there's fans there, like the other team gets up for the game a little bit. Now I'm not saying that like they're going to get up for 300 people watching, but I do like the narrative of the Draymond Green angle you were saying. Like he just got ejected from the game, and like also if you were watching that Charlotte and Warriors game, you sat there and you were like, okay, live bet Charlotte, right? The second the Curry illness happened, because the books were not adjusted, I bet on Charlotte. I put it money line, and it ended up winning. But that game was way closer than you expected, right? Like you were just waiting for Charlotte to just get out in front and win. And it took some time. It really was shocking for them to they went all the way down to the buzzer, and you just kept watching the game. Like, why are they not pulling away? Why are they not pulling away? It was just completely crazy. I think this Warriors team is a lot better than people think. Like, I'm in on the Warriors. I would be betting on them. Money line, spread. It's like, what is it now? Is it 1.5 spread?
The current line that I'm seeing is all the way up to -3 for the Warriors.
Okay, so that's moved a little bit. Okay, so it was 1.5 last night, but I still think I'm in on them. It's not too much of a gap. Now, if you get to 3.5 or 4, it's starting to get up there where it's a little concerning. But I like this Warriors team. I'm going to believe in them, and I'm going to buy in on them. I think they're healthy enough, and there is a little bit of value coming your way. You could get Wiseman or Looney back, right? That is certainly possible.
I'm looking at that. I'm thinking that they are going to play. Let's check. I was looking at the Basketball Monster earlier. Yeah, both of them are still questionable. Curry's probable, and Rivers is questionable. Noel probable.
Yeah, and that's why I like betting on it. And I probably should have bet it last night. But there's that value that could be baked in, right? That's not even accounted for yet with these guys coming back. And I'm not saying that those guys are worth, a lot of points, but it's enough where I think that's going to matter. And I like the way the Warriors can take this game down. So give me them in this spot.
What about you, JSU? Are you going to roll with the Warriors as well?
Yeah, it's interesting. So the Knicks as a team have been a surprisingly very good defense this year. I think it surprised a lot of people how good they've actually been. Pace is very different for both these teams, right? Knicks, the slowest pretty much, and Golden State is up there, one of the faster teams from pace perspective. So polar opposites. The Knicks do a really good job on the boards. Golden State, not as good. Now, maybe that's due more to the fact that they really don't have a true center right now, and multiple centers out. So getting some of those bigs back would help them. But I do lean the Knicks here. I think this is a good mismatch for them, especially on the boards. Like I said, Julius Randle, Nerlens Noel, these guys can rebound really well. They can cause havoc down low in the paint. So give me the Knicks. Knicks have been playing well, and they play their main guys like they play to win, it feels like, every night. Like, they just give their best player, Randall, 38 minutes a night and just say, go do it. Go, I don't know. I just feel like this Knicks team is a really solid team for a regular season anyways. And, I don't think they do anything really in the playoffs. But the regular season, these guys play hard, man. And they play good defense, like I said. They slow teams down, and they make them play at their pace, which is, that's the way they do well.
Yeah, Quickly's been a hell of a draft pick, and definitely a great addition to that organization. Now, you spoke of Julius Randle. I'm seeing here 8,800 and 9,300 on DraftKings. What are you thinking about him getting into your lineup? Is that a little too high for a guy that, you get 38 minutes almost guaranteed, right?
Yeah, Randle, I think that he is someone who won't be as highly owned. So he's one of those lower owned contrarian studs just because he's 9,300. And yeah, the minutes are always there. But when you look on this slate, you're just going to see a lot more spend ups that are going to be popular, that people are just going to lean to, every time. We already talked about a bunch of them. Luka's now without Porzingis. He's going to get ownership. Giannis is going to get ownership. Jokic is in a really good spot. Harden. So it's going to lead that 9K range is going to be under-owned because of it. So it's going to be more just due to roster construction. Those guys probably will all be somewhat lower owned in that range.
What about you, Travis? Who are you targeting for this game, or is this kind of a game it's going to not really be anywhere near your lineup?
Yeah, I have trouble with Warriors because again they're playing the Knicks, slower pace, and JSU brings up all the great points with the Knicks side, right? They're regular season tryhards, they're with Thibodeau, so I can't really get excited about too many Warriors when it comes from a DFS perspective. You can make a case for the Knicks, and the reason why you can make that case is the minutes they play and the pace that they're going to be playing at that they typically are not playing at. Like it definitely lines up for some good spots for them. So I'll look at Julius Randle for sure. He's definitely a guy that I think is in play. The problem is, do I want to allocate my salary towards him? I don't know. I think he fits that more tournament mid-tier build, right? Where maybe you play, you play at least one stud, and then you pair it with Julius Randle and maybe another mid-tier guy or two, and then plug in your values, right? And then I don't want to mess around with any other Knicks. I think that's kind of where I'm at. Just mainly Randle in this game and move on. And one last thing I'll mention, we had some news that popped in. Wayne Ellington out, so that just kind of, if you didn't listen to the Pistons talk, that just kind of talks more about, hey, like Saban Lee, Dennis Smith Jr., those guards, like they're going to get piled some more minutes. So they're definitely going to be a little chalkier with no Wayne Ellington minutes there.
Yeah, Detroit missing another shooter. Good for Magic backers there. I think this next game is another one that's fantastic from a fan's perspective. It's another one of these, same arena back-to-backs, and that's the Toronto Raptors. They're still grabbing 1.5 at home against the 76ers coming off, I think it was a 7-point win the other day in Toronto. Now, Toronto did very well against Milwaukee last week in a situation where they played the same team twice. They knocked the zigzag down with ease. Embiid had a 50-point game the game before this game against Toronto. Struggled against the Raptors in the last game that they played, and I think that was on Sunday as well. What are you guys thinking about this game? Do you think the Raptors can get it done again? What do you think, JSU?
Yeah, so this was a game where last time out, I did really like the Sixers. I think the Sixers give pretty solid mismatches to what Toronto wants to do. And they don't want to play Aaron Baines. What he played 28 minutes last game or whatever it was. They don't want to do that. They tried playing small. It just doesn't work against Joel Embiid. Like Siakam, they started with Siakam at the 5. Like they couldn't keep that. We would have gotten in foul trouble easily. Embiid was, you said he kind of struggled. Yeah, he didn't have the 50 burger. He didn't have a great shooting night, but he still had 25 and 17. And that was
how good he is that here this year though. That seems like a bad game.
Right, exactly. That's just crazy to me. He shot 6 for 20 from the field, so I get it. Like it wasn't a great shooting night for him, especially, but still had 25 points and didn't have a great shooting night. This is a really good spot for Embiid. Embiid could easily crush this Toronto team. I give him a little bit better numbers from a shooting perspective, and he would have had over 30 points easily. And I think he's a really good play. I think Philly, it says a lot that they're still favored here. I think 1.5 is the line still. I like Philly here. I'm going to stick with it. I liked them last time out. They didn't get it done. I think tonight they get it done. And Joel Embiid has a really good game.
All right, Travis. JSU's playing the zigzag. What do you think? Is Philly bounce back here?
Oh man, it's one of those things where it's hard to bet against the Raptors right now. Like they are absolutely rolling. So I think I like what JSU is saying with Philadelphia. I do think he's like Embiid is a really tough guy to stop here. And I also don't think the Raptors really have a good answer. Now they have an answer. What they did to start the last game was they started Pascal Siakam at the 5, right? And that didn't work exactly too great. And then what they did was in the second half, what they do? They started Aaron Baines. And Aaron Baines played how many minutes was it? He played a season high, I think it was. He played 30 minutes, right? In DFS, I think Aaron Baines, he's probably 3.2K. I'm not saying he's the greatest play in the world, but if you need value, you probably don't need him as value. He's not the worst option because if he plays 30 minutes for 3.2K, it's hard to, not get excited about that if you're struggling for a value play and you need one. And you can make a case he's an interesting pivot off of those Mavericks centers that are in the same exact price range. I do think those guys are better plays, though, and I would rather play them instead. But that's what I'm saying about Aaron Baines, 3.2K. I think he's an okay value. I do think that Joel Embiid has his way. I do think that what you're going to see a lot of the Raptors doing is being okay with Embiid getting a bit of his empty buckets down low, right? And they're not empty buckets, right? But getting the 2-pointers, right? They know Embiid is going to get his, but if they can slow down some other guys, it'll be okay. It won't be a problem. So that's kind of where I'm at on this game. I think that DFS wise, I like getting some value plays in there. If you also are playing DFS and there's no Kyle Lowry, I think the minutes from some of these guys is really nice and secure. If you can stomach the price tags, they've gone up. I think they're very safe options. You might be capped a little bit on the ceilings. But on the Sixers, I don't want to play anyone in DFS. I just only want to play Joel Embiid. And then I will bet on the Sixers, I think. I think Embiid's an interesting tournament play that has a lot of upside. And I don't see them losing to the Raptors twice in a row. Unlike the Bucks, I do think the Sixers are like a really good team. I know you think they're a very good team spread, and I'd be surprised if you were not on the Sixers.
No, I like Toronto here. I think that they keep it going. I think for whatever reason, Nurse just knows what to do against Philly, and I don't think that 6 of 20 was a fluke or an accident. I think that they scheme really well to stop Embiid. So also Philadelphia has always been a team that really, schizophrenic difference between the home and the road here, and maybe it's just the recency bias of watching Toronto, overcome the zigzag last week, where they played a great Milwaukee team. 2 games in a row, and they're able to get 2 wins in a row. So I actually like Toronto here. I didn't play it, but I definitely, my numbers say Toronto, and that's the way I would definitely.
The only thing I don't know if it's sustainable from last game when I looked at the numbers is Chris Boucher was plus 32, right? And that's like
ridiculous, huh?
Absurd, right? Again, I think what you're going to see, I think you're going to see a great basketball game, right? And I think you're going to see them do similar things what they did last time. And it's just, I don't know if it's sustainable. And I don't know, I feel like a donkey, right? Like I'm betting against the hot team, right? And I hate doing that. I normally just simply like to ride the wave, but I don't know. The Sixers are not like a team to mess with, right? They're kind of a hot team too in a way, at least throughout the season. If you're talking like a bigger sample size, they've been incredible.
Yeah, no, they've been fantastic this year, and they're kind of finally living up to what I've been saying about them the last 3 years. So I guess all it took was an actual competent NBA coach to bring out their potential. So this will definitely be a fun one to watch. Maybe get involved live because there should be a lot of swings. Maybe you can even arb both sides of this game because I'll definitely have it on my TV. This next game, I'm not sure if I'll have on my TV. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves catching 10.5 against Milwaukee. I mean, let's be honest, this game isn't that exciting. So, JSU, was Anthony Edwards the best dunk of the year so far against Toronto?
Yeah, it was. I watched that live too. That dunk.
It was awesome, huh? I was on Toronto, and I was like, oh.
I will say though that Saban Lee, I hate going back to it, but he almost had an insane dunk as well, where he climbed. I think it was Vucevic. I think he actually hit him in the nuts too, and just missed the dunk. But it was insane because it looked like he legit got more air because he pushed off of him with his foot and hit him. That. But if he yammed that on Vucevic, that would have been, in my opinion anyways, that would have been close because that was a 6-foot dude doing that to Nikola Vucevic, who's close to 7 feet. But that Anthony Edwards dunk was absolutely insane, probably the best dunk of the year so far. But Anthony Edwards, streaky shooter, someone I always like taking 3-point shooters against Milwaukee. He is an interesting guy, but his price tag, is it still up near 6K? Yeah, it's still up near 6K. Don't love that. This is definitely a game where I think Milwaukee wins. I think, Minnesota obviously is not a very good team defensively. But can Minnesota hang is the question. I do think they've been playing well enough where they could hang against Milwaukee and cover maybe the spread. I need someone else to talk me into it a little bit more because right now I kind of don't even – I just don't want to bet anything in this game. But if I had to make a lean, I think I would take the points with Minnesota and take a shot that they can hang. They've at least kept some games close. And Milwaukee, as good as, at times Giannis has looked, as a team, they have not looked that great to me this year.
Yeah. And now, Travis, something that we haven't seen a lot. I mean, I've been watching NBA, close to 40 years. I don't know another time I've seen a coach get hired from another team's bench mid-season. Chris Finch, the new coach of the Timberwolves. How does that factor into your handicap here? And do you expect to see anything different looks from this team? Maybe a new coach bump like we see in the NFL?
Yeah, so this is gonna be tough to handicap, right? Because like I do think like when you have a new coach, there's a lot of issues that can come into play, right? Like just what are they doing defensively? What are they doing offensively? Is there confusion? Because when you have confusion, right? What can that lead to? Well, like in football, right? Like if there's a confusion between a quarterback and wide receiver, an interception might happen, right? Where like those can be costly. Same thing in basketball. There's confusion on what play you're running or what you're doing or how you're approaching something, and like that can lead to an easy bucket down the lane. And like the Bucks is definitely not a team to make mistakes against, right? Not that they're able to make you pay for them, but they're really good at making you pay in these like easy transitions, right? That's where they're going to make you pay the most. That's why we make fun of them a lot, because their half-court basketball is a joke. So I have some concerns on the Timberwolves side. I think this is a good long-term move with this coach. I think this is great for Karl-Anthony Towns. If you look, everything I've read on this coach, he just feeds big men, like just feeds them and makes them the focal point of the offense. He's already talked about how Towns is going to be the focal point of the offense. I think this is a great spot to play Karl-Anthony Towns in DFS. The only reason why I'm like kind of pausing a bit is because like, man, he was 9.3K the other day, and I was like, opened up the salaries, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm getting a good price. Thought maybe I'd get 8.9 or 9K. Get 9.6. I was like, 9.6. I mean, yes, will that keep his ownership down? But like his ownership would have been down, I think, at 9K still. That's why I'm a little frustrated. But I think Karl-Anthony Towns is a really interesting tournament play. I'm debating on making him someone that I prioritize in my lineups with Giannis. I still don't know if I want to do it. I'm still kind of going back and forth. I need to dive deeper into it. But I even think betting Karl-Anthony Towns player props is a good idea, because I think you're going to see aggregate numbers thrown out there, and he's going to see way more usage. A lot's going to be funneled to him. So I'm all in on that Towns train, right? And I want to be there early. Deciding if the Bucks is the spot to get in on it. It probably is because of the pace of that game. But I like that. I do think I would lean betting on the Bucks, mainly because they're a team that they're definitely a little more motivated right now. They've been getting beat up over the past couple of years, saying they only try in the regular season, but like they are struggling right now. They're absolutely struggling, and they're trying to right that ship. It feels like it's falling apart. I would be betting on the Bucks to get this right against a team that like the Timberwolves. But I do think this game can stay a little bit closer than the Bucks pull away at the end. And I like the idea of getting on Towns because of that, and just the usage he's going to see, because we have not seen the usage get funneled to him all the time. And when you funnel the usage to your best player, good things happen, right? So I do expect the Timberwolves to improve. And I think you're going to see more of some of these other young guys like Jordan McLaughlin. Anthony Edwards obviously has been getting good looks, and you're going to continue to see that. So I'm buying into the Timberwolves in the long term, but not this first game.
Yeah, so I think that I have to have a lean here. I would take the 10.5 as well. Travis, I know you're a big quote guy. One thing that would encourage me if we are taking the Timberwolves, talk about not being on the same page. He came in, he said, "I'm not trying to install anything. I'm actually uninstalling things," which makes me think exactly what you said. More simplistic. Get it to Towns. Let Edwards work one-on-one, right? Hopefully get Beasley some open looks here. So I lean to the Timberwolves here, but boy, it does have that feeling like I was on Charlotte last night, right? Plus 13. I mean, I think it was tied going into the fourth, right? I'm feeling like I'm going to cash this plus 13, right? They lose by 20. I could see Milwaukee doing that again tonight. Although they're not at the level that Utah's playing at this moment, that's the one thing that scares me off there, is just that when you get these better teams, they can just turn it on and have those incredible quarters, like I fell victim to last night with the Jazz. So let's see. I don't know why these games are not coming up for me.
By the way, too, before I like the over on Cat 3-point makes -2.5 right now. So just because Milwaukee gives those, they force them into it. And Cat is one of those. You talked about kind of running the offense through Cat. He will take those shots. And if those shots are the ones being given, he's going to shoot those threes. And I could see this as a spot where, again, if those threes are going in, like Mangone said, Cat could go nuts. It is definitely a spot. The one thing that Milwaukee does so much better than Minnesota is rebound. And the rebounding numbers, they're one of the best rebounding teams in the league, where Minnesota is one of the worst. But a lot of those numbers is without Towns on the floor.
Exactly.
And I think with Towns, they're actually a better rebounding team. Towns is definitely a force down low, but I do think it's a spot where you could take the over on some of these shooters, like an Anthony Edwards, Malik Beasley, to a lesser extent just because the number's a little higher. But I do think an over on 3-point attempts, 3-point makes, with Cat and maybe Anthony Edwards as well, I like in this spot.
Yeah, Edwards kind of struggling from behind the arc this season, but I like the fact that he's not afraid to get it up. And I really like Edwards, even though like his efficiency numbers are terrible, and by the metrics he hasn't been good. If you just watch by the eye test, he's got an NBA body, he's got quickness. He just needs to kind of rein it in, and I think as he gets more experience, he's really going to be a really solid player. So maybe he can get some of that going tonight. It'll be interesting to see. Seems like we're split on the panel here with Travis liking the Bucks and JSU and I both thinking that we would take the points. Next game. Boy, Trailblazers coming off an absolutely terrible loss in Phoenix last night. That seemed like it was the marquee game of the night. Wasn't even fun at all. I think I only had it on my TV for 10 to 20 minutes because it was just a complete blowout. So now this Trailblazers team's coming off this terrible loss, heads to Denver to play a team that is coming off a loss in Atlanta. And, then they had a win over Cleveland. And then before that, they've had losses to Washington and Boston. So basically their last good win was on February 13th, and that was that Lakers win. But if you remember, that was a game where Anthony Davis went out. So Denver has been a streaky team this year. Right now it seems like they're on a bad streak. Portland was on a great streak until they got stomped. What do you think, Travis? What are you looking in this game? Portland opened +8, now down to +6.5.
Yeah, maybe it's some bias looking in. It's hard for me to bet on Portland. Like, I'm not a Portland backer, and off the back-to-back, I'm flying into Denver. Like, we talked about how like the home court shouldn't matter that much this year, but like in Denver, that does matter, right? It's not we're not talking crowds, right? And I think it's baked a little bit into the line, but and it's kind of been hard to bet on a team like the Nuggets this season, like especially when they're giving points because their defense has not been good, but I like what they did with the Zeke starting, right? I thought that was a good thing. Also, it was like first game back for, having Will Barton back in there. I kind of give him a pass for the Atlanta game, right? I think that this team is one that I would bet on them here against Portland. I like that spot. -6, it's a lot more to give than I would like, but that's where I would lean. And then I'm trying to think of any props in this game that I would like or DFS plays. Like, I do think obviously the Denver side, right? You got to make a case for a guy like Jokic. He's obviously a phenomenal option. One of those spend up centers I talked about where I was talking about, hey, like I like Towns, but I look at Jokic and I'm like, what am I doing, right? Like this is the perfect spot. It's Enes Kanter defense. It's a great spot. You can make a case for Jamal Murray. We know he can light it up and is okay to shoot the ball. And with all that being said, I know Portland doesn't play a lot of great defense, but they have some wing guys that can maybe give Porter Jr. some fits. And like, I think I'd bet Michael Porter Jr.'s unders, especially because I just don't think he's that great right now in this situation. If you put him on the court next to Will Barton, Jamal Murray, Jokic, like there's one basketball to play with, right? And I don't think it makes a lot of sense for MPJ. So I don't like him as much in DFS. He's one of those guys that probably is going to pop again in all the projections. I'll have to see if I fall on him. Like, man, it's tough to stomach. What I'll probably end up doing is looking to see if I can get that somewhere else. But he is a guy that has a ceiling, right? And it's a ceiling spot against Portland. Maybe JSU can talk me into it, but I have definitely been fading him, and it's been paying off and been good. I would prefer Will Barton over an MPJ if you're looking in that mid-tier, and I would prefer Jokic over Jamal Murray if I had to pick one of the studs to pay for.
Yeah, JSU, Jamal Murray coming off a 50-point game in which he didn't shoot a free throw. A little fun trivia there, right? So there's 4 players in NBA history that have done it, making 2 free throws or less, right? So Murray just recently did it. Clay and Steph, of course, makes sense because they're just shooting all those threes. And the last one was Dana Barros. I don't know if you guys remember him. He had a 50-point game where he only made 2 free throws. So what do you expect? Did Jamal Murray continue his hot streak and get the win over Portland and cover the 6.5-point spread?
Dana Barros. I used to play at the Dana Barros Center all the time for AAU hoops, so I definitely know that name pretty well.
Nice.
But so for this game, like one thing I'll say about Murray, and it's kind of shown a little bit, the last 3 games, he's taken 25, 25, and 20 shots, which is more like but the 7 games before that, he hadn't taken 20 or more in any of them. So that's something he looks a little more healthy. I know he had a bunch of injuries kind of to start the year. I think that were nagging him. I know because they were giving him like a game off here and there. And I know he was questionable a bunch and played through it some of the time.
It was an elbow, Joe. Where the arm?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jason. My internet lagged there for a second.
That's all right. Yeah. It was an elbow, and then there was something else too, a shoulder maybe. I think there was multiple injuries, honestly, but I know the elbow was definitely one of them.
Yeah, so that's you're 100% right about that. So like it's I think, do you think because of the 20 shots, it's clear he's healthy now and like we're good to go and we want to buy him?
I do.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell when he was injured because he had that. I remember the one game where he had the sleeve on, and midway through the game, he was shooting terribly, and he ripped the sleeve off and he threw it. He was like, "I'm not wearing this thing anymore," and then he started hitting a few shots, but it was like definitely he was like flexing it all the time and messing with it. Now we don't see that as much, and I do think with the uptick in shots. Overall, I think he's got to feel a little more healthy. I think the elbow's got to be feeling a little bit better. So yeah, I do think that's good for Denver overall. But I think I lean taking the points with Portland here.
Wow, okay.
Both teams, Denver has been awful defensively. Like Denver can't stop anyone, and Dame is in a really good spot. I know it's on a back-to-back. But, man, Trae Young just gave him the business last game against Denver. I think Dame could have a huge game here against Denver. They struggle with those guards, those wings, and I think it's a really good spot. I think it could be a back-and-forth game. I also like Jokic here. Like, I think it's a good spot for Jokic, like Mangone said, and his Canard defense. So this game to me is very intriguing. I like the over as well in this game. Give me Portland with the points, and then give me the over on this game. Those are my two plays here.
Love it. So, yeah, total here is
232, I think.
Which doesn't really seem that high for a Denver game. I guess maybe they're thinking a little bit of fatigue here. But, yeah, I'm with you there on the over. Seems like we're split on the side and total. Anything more on this game before we head to the last game of the night?
No, I just hate Portland, man. I hate that team so much. So it is what it is. They're going to be interesting to see Damian Lillard though. I want to see what his ownership is going to be because that is a tournament play that, man, when fading his usage, he's what?
It's going to be 3%.
Gosh, it's tough not to want to get excited. Like Jason, he's another example, right? I talked about this earlier, and this is something in DFS I think that like isn't talked about enough. When a guy is like 5K, right, and then all these guys are rolled out, he's magically like 7.5, like after like 4 games, like. Damian Lillard wasn't, 7.5 and then now is magically 10.2 or 10.5. Like he's always at that price. I mean, sure, he goes down in 9K sometimes, but you are just getting when you get these studs, like you are getting them in such a good spot. And you can make a case Damian Lillard is one of the best ceilings in the entire NBA. I mean, it's just, he's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope we see a Lillard-Murray shootout from a fan's perspective because I'd love to tune in and see that. Now, this last game is a game that, boy, at halftime, I wasn't feeling too good about my Wizards +7 ticket. Joey and I were on the show yesterday. We like the Wizards. We like the money line. We were down on the Lakers with LeBron carrying all these guys around. And, boy, it felt like we were wrong. Wizards come back. Win in overtime. How great was it for us to cash both those plays? I loved it. Now they're expecting a lot of fatigue because Wizards are catching 12.5 going against the Clippers here on a total of 233. What do you think? One more time for the Wizards magic, or is that does that genie leave the bottle? What do you think, JSU?
I mean, if both their studs play here, like Westbrook and Beal, I definitely think they could cover here. That's right. For sure. And to me, I would not bet the Clippers with the 12 and what is it, 12.5? You said 12?
Yeah, I think it's 12.5 right now.
Yeah, I mean that to me, like I think not that I think Washington's a great team. They're not really that good at all. But Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, if they're both playing, like they could easily stay in this game close enough to for that 12.5 to cover. I don't think the Clippers are another team where the continuity of the team, because guys being in and out and not being able to play with their full team, they haven't really gotten into a strong rhythm as a team because they haven't all gotten to play together for a good amount of games. So that's definitely, in my opinion, affected them a little bit here to start the season. And I know it's off of a back-to-back, but if I had to take a lean, it would just be with the points with Washington. But definitely a game I'm not very confident on, like from a betting standpoint. Maybe I'd kind of wait, see if we could get them live. If they start off and maybe the Clippers make a run to start, and then we could get them live. This is definitely a spot where you could look at something like that.
Yeah. All right, Travis. So I want to definitely know what your thoughts of this game. Also, I know you guys probably see all this stuff because of the DFS usage. Luke Canard, big acquisition during the offseason. They give him an extension. Hasn't hit the floor the last couple games. What do you guys make of that?
I mean, for good reason. He's Luke Canard. It's just such a it's so terrible. But I think they felt like they had to do it to keep the guys happy. Like, we're not bringing back the same band, where we're bringing in some guy to help you out, but not a good move. I wouldn't be betting on Washington here in this spot because Westbrook can obviously sit, right. That's a huge concern. And without Westbrook, that team has been a disaster. So poor Bradley Beal sitting there on the bench, always crying. So I can't get behind it. This is a better game where we've talked about a bunch of
his buddy John Wall, though, that game.
Yeah, it's fair.
Talking about where he was crying, that was against his buddy John Wall. Give him a little break. There's definitely a rivalry there.
Listen, if the tiers turn into Bradley Beal somehow in the Celtics, I'll be very happy. So let's parlay that into
that.
Okay, there you go.
let's try and make that work. That's what I'm hoping for. I love him. He's an awesome player. And he's probably really awesome for DFS tonight too, right? Especially if Westbrook sits, there's a lot of really good studs tonight. It's really hard to rank them, but I don't know if I'll end up getting there. Shooting guard is a terrible position, it feels like most days. And if you're not spending up at shooting guard, it's not the worst idea to maybe spend on a Bradley Beal. And if you are going to play Kawhi or Paul George, I would probably run it back with Bradley Beal. I think that's how I would approach it in tournaments, just because I think if the game does stay close, at least one of those Clippers goes crazy. And Bradley Beal probably has a really nice game. So that's how I would approach it in DFS. And I don't know. I mean, I think we've talked about a lot of plays that you can bet, and I'm okay with maybe not betting this one, right? There's other games that I like. You don't have to have a 10-team parlay spread. You can have 3 or 4 bets, right? You don't have to have that 10-team parlay. You don't have to cook it up every day.
You mean you don't have to bet on every game, Mangone?
Yeah, you don't have to bet on every game. It's not
sure. Are you sure that's allowed here?
Yes.
All right. Well, you don't have
all
to bet
I know
on every
is we
game,
give full unit plays. That's all I know, Mangone. No half unit plays. They're not allowed here.
Not allowed to give a half unit play on a 35-1 golf play.
Nope.
I have to put a
nope.
Okay. Oh man, too good.
All right. Well, here's a section that I think that Gregory Russo is definitely going to enjoy, and this is where we give our best bet of the day. So I'll go ahead and start with you, JSU. You might play more, you might play less, but give us your favorite bet on the card today, side, total, or prop.
Yeah, I like the Magic to win here. You can take the money line, you could take them, but I think they're one of the better bets. Another shooter, Wayne Ellington. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but man, they need guys to take some shots, and they just don't have many other guys. So unless you see Jeremy Grant going for a 40 spot here, it's going to be tough for them to even hang in this game. And I just see 3.5. I just think that's wrong. I think the money line. You could take the money line and the spread. Honestly, I like both sides of it. But give me the Magic. I'll take them to win.
All right, JSU's on the Magic. Travis, your favorite play of the day, side, total, or prop?
Yeah. So, Greg, again, you'll love this segment. We've given out a bunch of different bets here and there, leans, but I'll give you a couple, Greg, just to get you happy. So I agree on the Magic. I'm not taking the Magic one because JSU has it, but I'm definitely a fan of the Magic one. It's one of the better ones, I think, on the card. I will go with the Warriors at -3. Greg, if you're cooking up that 10-team parlay, throw in the Warriors money line. That I like that. So throw that one in there if you'd like. They're -150. You can get them at -3 right now. I like the Warriors to beat the Knicks by more than 3 points. Joey Work is somewhere, yelling at me and saying that I'm, the worst, but it is what it is. We're rooting against the Knicks tonight. And I will go with my favorite prop are the Towns props, right?
Right.
Assists, points. I don't know what they are.
I'll see if I can find them right now.
I'm probably betting them every single day for the next 4 games because I don't think that aggregate number is correct. And I made this mistake with Aaron Gordon in the past. I bet his assist once and it didn't go. And then I got a sour taste in my mouth and I just didn't keep going. And it's like, I know what's going to happen here. The usage is going to go up. These aggregate numbers are wrong. And I'm going to bet on Towns to be in a better spot.
You think the minutes go up? Because they've been hanging them right around 31, 32-ish minutes. Because that's a huge part of, I think, why a lot of people have not been on Towns is the minutes. It's not like a limit because, getting 31, 32 minutes, that's pretty solid, right? But he doesn't have that minutes upside, it seems, except for that one game. Obviously, they went into overtime, though, so if they didn't, he would have seen right around what he was normally getting. Do you think he gets a minutes bump here where they kind of take some minutes away from playing Naz Reid and let Towns see a little minutes upside and get 36, 37, 38 minutes?
Yeah, so typically good coaches play their players, right? And everything I hear about this guy is he's a good coach, and he's talked about making him the center part of the offense. So I don't think you're going to see 40 minutes a night, right? But I do think you might see 2 or 3 minutes added on where it's 30. If the game's not competitive, you maybe dock it down to 31, 32. But if it is competitive or they're close in it, you're going to see those 34 or so. And you're going to be developing players, right? The Timberwolves are in the process of trying to get these guys better. The coaches already talked about making these guys, using these younger guys. If you're doing that, you need to do it with Towns. You know what I mean? It's you don't want to try and develop a guy when you have good players around. That's why Dwayne Casey loves Wayne Ellington, right? Because he helps him.
But that's my question though, because he's a way better play if you tell me he's getting 35 plus minutes.
I don't know if I can say. Yeah, I don't know if I can say 35
it's
plus.
So hard.
But I feel
brand new coach.
I feel
I know that's my thing though, because he is so much of. And if you were telling me you're going to give him that minutes ceiling, I'd feel more comfortable about even betting them and keeping this game, right? That's one of the reasons why I feel uncomfortable about the spread, even though I would lean taking the points with Minnesota. I feel uncomfortable because they haven't let Towns kind of let him off the full leash, right? Where they run him 38 minutes in a close game. They've had close games already, multiple close games, and they've still decided to let him play 31, 32 minutes. So that's a huge thing for him, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I checked, Travis. It's 22.5 juiced on Bookmaker, but I went ahead and joined you on that one. My favorite play is going to be two teams that I've enjoyed betting over all year, and that's going to be the over 242. It seems high, but this is the Kings and the Nets. Shouldn't be a lot of defense. Should be the highest paced game on the floor, and I'm so close to pulling the first half team total on the Nets. It's 63. I still think there might be a little value the way the Kings just give up points in the first game, but for the official play, we'll just go the full game over 242. So a quick wrap up. JSU likes the Magic. Mangone's on the Warriors and the Karl Anthony Towns overs. I took the Brooklyn Nets. Anything else we got for these guys before we get out of here?
Yeah, one last thing. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. And, if you, subscribe to the DFS side, this is a different channel, right? It's Run Pure Bets, right? So you can check out all the betting content. And we do this, are you doing it 5 times a week spread? It's pretty much every day. It seems like it's Monday.
Yeah, pretty much every day.
Yeah, so we'll be doing this. We talk DFS and betting and have tons of betting content over at Run Pure Bets. You can add it onto your Run Pure Sports subscription. You can use the code BETS25 off. And then Run Pure Sports, if you haven't signed up, you can use the code Workbench21. That gets you 25% off on your first payment as well. And we'll be back on the Run Pure Sports channel. I'm doing the show with Big T, everyone's favorite. Everyone loves himself some Big T and JT. So check out that in a couple hours.
All right, JSU, you got anything else for everyone before we get out of here?
Nah, man, go and hit it all. Check us out. Make sure
I didn't hit it all.
On the Hardwood Show.
I didn't hit it all. JSU's afterwards, right? I mean, come on. We can't not mention.
Okay, listen, I'm the afterthought. It's okay though. It's fine.
No,
you're back. Where's Big T at right now? I gotta go look at his ugly mug after this. Oh God!
All right, guys. Well, speaking of Big T, it will be JSU and Big T tomorrow on the rundown.
I gotta look at him tomorrow too.
Yeah, we're making you earn your paycheck, JSU. We're making you earn your paycheck.
We're gonna fight tomorrow. Be ready.
I can't wait because that's when we get all the thumbs up. That's when we get all the retweets and everything. So
JSU, Big T might be the entree, but you're the dessert man, and everyone loves dessert. Everyone loves JSU.
Right. That's fair. That's fair. I'll take the dessert.
So, all right, we'll be back tomorrow for another healthy helping of betting and DFS content. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for checking it out, and run pure.